Usually, we love to see virtuous heroes fighting for what's right and saving the day. But now we're going to look at some characters who are held to a different standard. Blowing up an entire planet is usually enough to make someone a villain. But in the Dragon Ball universe, these gods of destruction are just doing their jobs. When causing mayhem is considered part of their duty, things can get pretty crazy. We'll take a look at these characters and talk about which ones stand out as the most awesome and who should qualify for a demotion. Let's start out with good old Beerus, the Destroyer from everyone's favorite Dragon Ball Super universe, Universe 7. Beerus is as powerful as he is lazy, which means that he's incredibly powerful. Being awoken from a cat nap can make him grouchy, which means entire planets can be destroyed with a simple flick of his finger. In the manga, we've even seen him using Ultra Instinct, one of the most difficult techniques in the canon. Even Vegeta might never be able to master this move, and he's the Prince of all Saiyans. Sure, he couldn't do it for very long, but being able to use Ultra Instinct at all is a huge accomplishment, since it's a favored technique of the crazy powerful angels. There's no doubt that Beerus is one of the coolest gods of destruction out there. How many folks in the Dragon Ball Super universe can manage to look bored when Goku goes Super Saiyan right in front of them? I can barely contain my excitement, and I'm just watching from home. Being able to pull off crazy moves like summoning a cataclysmic orb is one thing, but the fact that Beerus barely blinks at his own awesome power is something else entirely. Of course, if Beerus is a cool god of destruction, it only makes sense that the same can be said about his twin brother Champa. He's the god of destruction of Universe 6, and these two siblings have a heated rivalry between them. Champa isn't afraid to stand up to Beerus, and even talked about claiming planet Earth for himself. In fact, if it wasn't for their angels Whis and Vados, these two gods would have definitely destroyed at least one universe by now. In terms of power, Champa is on par with his brother Beerus, even though Vados seem to imply that his charge is slightly weaker. Even in the face of non-existence, Champa is dedicated to messing with his brother above anything else. Taking time for a sibling rivalry in the face of utter annihilation definitely makes Champa one of the more compelling gods of destruction. Even Belmod's a better Joker than we saw in Suicide Squad, and he's a god of destruction. Just kidding. Even though Belmod might look like he's into clowning around, don't be fooled, because he's one of the greatest gods of destruction in Dragon Ball Super. Even Whis seems to think that Belmod could take down Beerus in a fight, and it's not hard to see why. This god of destruction might talk a lot about how tough he is, but I have to respect that he actually has the skills to back it up. In the manga, he uses techniques like an imprisonment ball and energy cards to take down his opponents quickly. For a nearly unstoppable god of destruction, Belmod is a surprisingly chill guy. Sure, he loves power, but he's not a big fan of evil. The fact that he dresses like a shirtless clown should disqualify him from being considered cool. But somehow, he just makes it work. If Quitela were to engage in a game of cat and mouse with Beerus and Champa, there's no possible way he would win. The god of destruction from Universe 4 is cruel, lazy, and doesn't like to get his hands dirty, meaning that he prefers to play video games and eat junk food instead of fighting. Yes, I do that too, but I'm not a god of destruction. Beerus is lazy too, but at least he knows how to fight. Just look at what a big baby Quitela is when his universe got erased. Very uncool. It's like turning to look at an explosion instead of just walking away and putting on a pair of sunglasses. If Quitela has any unique special attacks in the canon, we haven't seen them yet, since he's not much of a fighter. He might actually be the lamest god of destruction we've seen so far. Jin is a god of destruction who is both strong and smart, and what's cooler than that? His Universe 12 is responsible for creating mortal-accessible time travel. He was also clever enough to realize that testing the arena for the Grand Minister would only end up in him having to rebuild it afterwards. You have to admire someone who lives by the work smarter, not harder mantra. Compared to the other gods of destruction, we haven't seen too much of Jin in action. Some fans believe he might be ultra-powerful, while others are more skeptical. Based on what we've seen so far though, Jin definitely seems like one of the cooler gods of destruction. Arak is another god of destruction we don't know too much about. He hails from Universe 5 and takes his job very seriously. Instead of just decimating entire planets on a whim, Arak prefers to figure out how he can do his job while minimizing the amount of destruction necessary. No, he's not acting out of laziness like most of his coworkers. He's just extremely disciplined. Even though he's already incredibly powerful, he still keeps up with his training. And whatever he's doing is clearly working, since Universe 5 was able to opt out of the Tournament of Power because of its high mortal ranking. I have to say, based on what little we know, Arak is pretty subjective. If you think efficiency is cool, then Arak's your guy. But if you think playing by the rules when you could be wiping out planets is lame, then he's not going to be your pick. Personally, I think being able to reduce the risk of your entire universe being wiped out is pretty great. Ivan is another efficient god of destruction. Thanks to him putting in a ton of hard work, Universe 1 was exempt from competing in the Tournament of Power. We've seen him fighting with Arak and Liqueur, but other than that, he's a pretty big question mark. We can't even see his face behind his admittedly very cool beard. Arak has enough about him to make him an interesting character, but in the anime, Ivan is too unknown to get too excited about. He's definitely not the lamest god of destruction, but he's far from being the most awesome. Few things in the Dragon Ball universe, or any other universe for that matter, are cooler than robots. So when I saw a giant green robot stomping around in Dragon Ball Super, naturally my hype level was at an all-time high, until I saw the little pink dude who was actually controlling him. Mosco the robot is great. I mean, what's not to like about a robot who can shoot lasers out of his eyes? But Mule himself, not so much. He's the god of destruction for Universe 3, and the fact that he has to hide inside of a robot probably tells you all you need to know about him. Although, to give credit where it's due, he does get points for being smart enough to create Mosco. However, it would have been better if he could have programmed him to talk so Campari doesn't have to do so much translating. Overall, Moscow's cool, Mule is lame, and Moscow Mule is a delicious beverage for those old enough to imbibe. Like Arak and Ivan, Liqueur runs a tight ship when it comes to his universe. That's why Universe 8 didn't have to participate in the Tournament of Power and risk being wiped out of existence. But Liqueur takes a different approach by simply destroying anyone who could possibly lower his universe's mortal level. Honestly, it's an impressive combination of ruthlessness and efficiency that I think is pretty befitting of a god of destruction. In the manga, we've seen him use some cool techniques like his tail energy cannon barrage, and hopefully we'll learn more about him in the anime as well. But based on what I've seen so far, he seems to be a pretty awesome character. Helios may be the most humanoid of all the gods of destruction, but that doesn't mean she's the coolest. In fact, for someone who looks like the mighty Cleopatra, many fans consider her to be pretty lame. It's hard to hate on the cheerful folks from Universe 2, and for the most part, Helios is good about cheering on her team. Unless they happen to be ugly. She's vain and proud, but at least in the manga, she's handy with a bow and arrow. It might be hard being the only female god of destruction, but Helios really needs to get over whether things are beautiful or not and just get down to causing destruction. She's arrogant, but her universe's mortality level wasn't high enough to get them out of the Tournament of Power. All of her bluster and posturing would be a lot more impressive if she was stronger, which is why she's definitely on the lamer end of the list. For a god of destruction, Roshi isn't very good at destroying things, or rather he doesn't destroy things very often since he's so lazy. He's really just into being the god of destruction for Universe 10 for all the praise. While I can't blame him for that, it's not very impressive. Much more interesting is his signature battle roar from the manga. With it, he can leave everyone within earshot totally paralyzed and ready to be trampled on. It might not work on angels or the Omni Kings, but it's still a great move. According to Whis, Roshi has the most powerful voice out of anyone in any universe. Which is pretty cool, as long as you're out of earshot. Hey, if he can't be the best god of destruction, at least he can be the loudest. Overall, Roshi isn't great at his job, doesn't have the best attitude, and his greatest attribute is making a whole lot of noise. Last and quite possibly least, we have Sidra, the god of destruction from Universe 9. He looks like a leprechaun and Hagrid from Harry Potter had a child, but let's not judge a deity by his cover. Not destroying things out of sheer laziness is impressive, but Sidra's reason for slacking on his job is even worse. He's simply too indecisive to figure out what to protect and what to blast into a billion pieces. For most of us, being calm, cool, and collected are good things, but Sidra is supposed to be a god of destruction. The fact that he's too passive to even cause some good old-fashioned mayhem makes him incredibly lame. And as far as his powers go, Golden Frieza was able to shrug off his energy attack and trap Goku in it instead. In the manga, his most impressive move is setting up shields really quickly, which is somehow less awesome than Roshi yelling really loud. Sidra might look kind of like a Viking, but he sure doesn't fight like one. No wonder his universe was the first to be erased during the Tournament of Power. I feel like you just can't beat Beerus, especially if you're playing hide and seek. Tell us which god of destruction is your favorite in the comments section below. And don't forget to click on that subscribe button for more new videos from CBR. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.